Hey guys, my name is Bryce, and today I'm going to do a video on basically my quick spoiler-free and then spoiler review of The Last Jedi. Now, this is just not actually a lightsaber, it's just a LED light. I'm going to give a very quick rundown because even though, as you can see in the title, there is a spoiler. For those of you who are on the fence, I'll give a quick summary of saying The Last Jedi essentially brings a lot of new things to the table. You'll get a few references, actually quite a few references, from older movies, but if you're not in the franchise yet, I would strongly recommend seeing the other ones. However, you don't really need to know all that much, since like first time you see a character, they'll say the name, you can kind of get that that experience and becoming familiar with somebody fairly quickly. And so I would say you're welcome to jump in and all that stuff. If you're coming back as a long-time fan, or you've seen at least like a few stories, don't have huge expectations. I feel like that might be a problem for the series in general right now, is that the bar is just set so high now, it's very difficult to reach that. Same goes for pretty much all sequel movies. That's a problem they all seem to have, but that's what I would say for now. Now I'm gonna go into the spoilers. So, okay, here we go. So with the spoilers and everything, I would say one of the two things that really stick out to me, the smaller one starting first, Poe Dameron is so irresponsible. It really took me until realizing that, oh yeah, this last fleet of, at least the best equipped part of the rebellion and all that stuff is really just on its own. Like, it's great they have a fleet of bombers, and it's really upsetting that they lost them so early on in the movie, to realize, like, yeah, if this is all you have, you cannot be making risky decisions like that. I see obviously the benefits of being able to take out I think it's called the Dreadnought or something like that. Pretty on the nose reference to other Warcraft of Earth's history, but anyway, I feel like they should have punished Poe more, and yes, they did quite a bit to show the human consequences that the sacrifices made. I actually thought it was a great way to introduce a character showing that, with Rose losing her sister, that's how we actually start to get the connection with Rose, like, oh, this huge sense of grief is something very important. Considering the fact they didn't show it in this movie, I really hope at some point Rose just almost like completely loses it and like really this sounds terrible coming from me, but like gets explicitly upset with Poe. I obviously know, of course, like the character from beforehand is supposed to be like this, kind of hot-headed hotshot, and the whole Flyboy nickname is really appropriate. But so many people died because of his decision, and obviously it's a much larger win for for them against the Empire and everything. But man, that just kind of bothered me for a little while, and yeah, that was something that stuck with me. I don't know. I feel like it could have been handled slightly differently, or the fact they had to show things going as bad as they did, I understand. But that's where I'm going to leave that for now. Now, with the other slightly larger issue I have is the whole casino scene. And the reason why I held back on this review in the first place is that I actually got my ticket from the... oh, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Something like that. On the kind of opening time that I could, as early as I could, without having, friends in high places or anything. And then I was about to review it, but then things started coming out almost right away of, again, more spoiler reviews like this, except they were extremely negative, and I actually kind of wanted to start to see some of those ones first, before I'd actually form my own opinion, not to sway it to be more negative in a certain way, but I also wanted to understand, like, I had a really good time watching this movie overall. What are other people's problems, essentially? And I'll put a pin in this one as well, because I agree with a lot of the points that were made, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily as serious as some of the, I guess, the more hardcore fans have made it out to be, or even more of like the people who are inclined to be, you know, professional film critics or fans who are also, you know, studying film and things like that. Just because I feel like the general audience might not appreciate things as much, and so if you are a hardcore fan and you've either seen this already or considering seeing it and find yourself disappointed at some point, that is too bad. I think that's really unfortunate, where this new direction that you know, Disney is now making is something that I think is actually a good direction. Casting wise and story wise, I'm glad we're finally getting away from the whole Death Star thing, because that's something I think shouldn't be returned to. It's something that's become basically a trope to Star Wars itself, which is not a good thing. Anyway, moving past that though, the only other problem I had really with the story is the whole casino scene. And in particular, to handle that, I would say that the fact that Finn and Rose had such a finite you know, amount of time they had to work with and everything like that. I understand that at some point they have to pace themselves to try and blend in with their surroundings. However, the one scene that they took to, for example, look over at the balcony and see that there is both animal torture and also child slavery happening in the same like frame of view is a powerful moment, but I really wish they had just situated in a different circumstance, where rather than have that kind of on their own free time, I would have much rather take almost kind of the same interaction minus binoculars and basically have it where, you know, as soon as they arrive, fairly soon afterwards, they're discovered trying to keep a low profile, and yet they get arrested and all that stuff. And as they're walking towards incarceration somewhere, that's where they see, you know, the huge devastation, and Rose kind of helps narrate a bit over top of what they see around themselves, because they could really just be on the way, walking past the racetrack, see through the fences as they're about to be, you know, sent to a prison and all that stuff. You know, just how bad these people are, because otherwise all the rest of the details in it, just the slower pace everyone took to kind of take in their surroundings, felt too slow to me, and that kind of stuck out and bothered me. For the good things though, I want to say first off, the growth of the characters is something that I very appreciate, and it's hard to take myself out of it without seeing the Force Awakens and all that stuff too. You know, if I was starting fresh, not knowing these characters at all, where it would be, I feel like that's not how the movies are made to be looked at. But for new viewers, I think it does a pretty good job of you know, kicking things off and everything. And for somebody who's returning, it's great to see more depth added. And man, seeing Luke again and how much he played with, you know, all the different characters and their expectations, and really, you know, in this whole stories of Star Wars in the more extended sense, it was interesting to see him go from being a big optimist, where, you know, Ben Kenobi is you know, kind of hooking him into being a Jedi, and now he's a total pessimist, but with very good reason, of course. And so I thought all the stories kind of surrounding him, you know, in his later development were really well done. The further development of Rey and Finn is really cool. Rose, I wasn't quite sure about at first, but I warmed up to her and everything. I think her character is something I wasn't expecting to really see in Star Wars, of somebody who's well, actually no, now that I think about it, I'm contradicting myself. Seeing somebody from just like a boring farmland is fine. Having somebody who's like a regular maintenance worker with like no combat experience or anything like that also being pulled into it, but with, you know, potentially even less I don't know, expectancy to be combat ready and all that stuff is interesting. Whereas at least with farmers and things like that, from, you know, Luke and Rey, there's a lot of like fending for yourself to deal with, whereas, you know, Rose seems to be at least more situated from, you know, finding out about other information from rebel forces, so there's that advantage. But the same time, yeah, I wasn't expecting, you know, any kind of major fight scenes to come from Rose or anything like that. But I like the character now. She's definitely grown on me, which is cool. What else? I think the world building in general, from like the landscapes, which are different and interesting. The aliens I like, but they're also not like really jumping out at you, except in the casino scene. So there's a few issues where that can kind of contradict. But in any case, that's something I appreciated. And yeah, I like the fact that the story revolves around something other than a super weapon. It's a, you know, desperate escape sort of situation. The stakes are fairly reasonable, aside from that hole that I already poked in and everything. And it also really just shows just how dire the situation is now. Of course, it's, you know, incredible, like, super gasoline fuel for a sequel to come up and everything, but you can kind of expect that now. But I also think it answered a lot of questions, so it seems like it'll be something that'll be nice to fit in. You know, it's a great sequel that you know is going to have a follow-up movie, is what I'm saying. So I think that's a great way to pretty much wrap it up, I think. I'd say overall I'm happy with it. I've made my peace with the problems I've had, but I think ultimately that'll be something I'll gloss over once I, you know, do a marathon with some friends at home at some point, and, you know, see a bunch of these more recent movies all over again. And I think it's something that I'm really impressed with, not just from what I've seen on screen, but also off screen with behind the scenes stuff, which I'll actually leave a link to down below about how some of the creature puppetry was done. I love that Blade Runner did a whole bunch of great practical effects, which I could go on about. I was going into the theater with a suspended sense of disbelief and all that stuff, and as long as you can kind of have that going in, or, you know, even watching it again with a bit more of an open mind and all that stuff, I think that The Last Jedi is definitely a, you know, I would say a really enjoyable movie. So if you're not a fan of it, I don't know if the one after that's going to be much better. I feel like there's certainly a distinct direction that the movies are starting to go into, but for myself, my personal opinion, I was definitely a fan, and I definitely am continuing to be a fan. So that wraps it up for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.